Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for some gentle and restorative yoga. So all week this week I've been teaching a posture in the more active classes that's called Ardha Matsyendrasana. And this is sort of a twisted up kind of complicated pose, and it's named after this important figure to yoga, Matsyendra. And according to some of the stories about him, he's the first yoga student, and then he ultimately becomes a yoga teacher. But the way that he becomes the first yoga student is some kind of perfect combination of right place, right time, and also this willingness to pause and listen. So he ends up receiving sort of the teachings of yoga by his sense of hearing, but that ability to listen is ultimately metaphorical. How do we listen for our body's responses to things? You know, one of the things we get an opportunity to do in our yoga practices, and especially in a gentle and more restorative class, is we slow things way, way down, and then we get to really notice what that feels like for us. Sometimes slowing down can feel so nurturing. It can feel like this lovely act of self-care. Other times slowing things down can feel a little bit uncomfortable. You have this like space to notice or to feel things that you might not otherwise feel. Of course, sometimes it's physical, right? Like you have this kind of nagging ache in your hip or something, and when you slow down, you notice that it's bothering you. Whereas if you're busy, mentally or physically, that nagging pain doesn't bother you anymore. It's that sort of thing. But sometimes what you notice is sort of more on the emotional level, right? Maybe all the busyness has made you realize, had made you forget that you're, feeling a little bit sad, or you're feeling a little frantic, or you're feeling like a little manic. Whatever the case may be for you, I give you this invitation in this practice tonight to keep coming back, to pay attention. You don't necessarily have to do anything about what you notice. It's just that process of noticing, right? That process of listening, of creating a deeper awareness of ourselves, and then ultimately of the way that we move through the world. That's really what we're all about. So yeah, I think we should do this. The seated positions that are happening here are looking great, but if you are already in a place where you're like, I must lay down right now, that is totally fine. You're welcome to lie down. If you're seated, let your hands rest in your lap or on your thighs or by your sides in a comfortable way. If you're lying down on the floor, try putting your hands on your belly, or you could just let your arms relax by your sides. And then everybody close your eyes. Sometimes when we close our eyes, we can actually listen, we can actually hear and notice things in a different way than when our eyes are open. What do you notice? Start to notice what's happening with your body. How do your legs feel? Anything noteworthy about your back? What about your shoulders or your neck or your head? Then start to notice what's happening with your breath. The breath in many ways creates this kind of in-between place for us. It's not entirely physical, but it's not entirely in the realm of something more internal. And so the breath is such a great place, a kind of tool where we can anchor our attention. You don't have to control or manipulate the breath, though I recognize that when we start to notice the breath, it might just shift on its own. Simply having a moment to listen, to pay attention to the breath. It's a huge part of this little pause that we're taking in this practice tonight. And then begin to notice what's kind of under all of that. What's your energy like right now? What kind of mood are you in? How would you describe your emotional self in this moment? You don't have to change anything about it, just notice. Now start to send your mind a little forward into the future. How do you want to feel by the time this practice is over? What kind of quality would you be cultivating here in this practice? Bring your hands together in front of your heart if you're sitting up. If you're lying down and it's easy to put your hands on your chest, you could do that, but you don't have to. This gesture of joining our hands by our heart, it's a gesture of intention setting, a reminder of our motivations and aspirations, a place to seal up, like the seal on an envelope, those kinds of desires for how this practice might shift us. Singing the sound of Om takes this energy of our individual intentions and expands it, magnifies and amplifies our intentions and aspirations. Singing Om is also an important way for us to honor the ritual and the traditions of yoga. I invite you to add your voice to mine to sing an Om here. Or if you're in a place where you'd rather listen, that's just fine too. Everyone, please exhale your breath all the way out. Then breathe in. Release your hands down into your lap. And then keep your gaze soft. As you blink, open your eyes. All right, everybody, we're gonna move a little bit before we rest. Come on to all fours into a table pose, please. Feel free to use one of your blankets to pad up your knees, especially if you're feeling sensitive to the hard floor. Give yourself a bit of extra space so when you set up, your hands are well in front of your shoulders. Then as you inhale, spin your sitting bones towards the sky, lift your chest, make a deep curve through your low back. As you exhale, round your spine, drop your chin and your tailbone down, push all the way back, hips towards your heels in a child's pose. We can start to take a little dynamic flow like that. Inhale, table to cow. Exhale, cat, back to child's pose. There is absolutely no urgency in this work. You set the pace that feels good. The intention behind this practice tonight is to be gentle, to be slow, to create space for resting with more awareness. But sometimes in order to get to that place where we really feel deeply rested, we have to be a little bit more vigorous in the movement. Is that true for you? Do 3 more like this. And then when you get to the end of that next exhalation, keep your hips back at your heels in your child's pose. Prop up onto your fingertips. As you're working your hips back a little heavier, walk your hands a little bit more forward. Have this sense that you're kind of stretching yourself out, wiggling out through the sides of your waist. Then walk both arms over to the left. Shift your belly, shift your chest over your left leg. Work your right hip a little heavier back towards your heel.
Bow your ribs out to the right side. Take an extra round of breath there between right armpit and right hip. Then walk your hands around to the center. Keep walking your arms over to the right. Shift your belly and chest over your right leg. Same idea, just the second side. Bow your ribs out to the left. Give yourself this big sense of space between left armpit and left hip. Great place for an extra breath. Then walk your hands back around towards the middle of your mat. Look up towards the front of the mat and then do this kind of crawl or slide, sort of slither your way out to belly down. Once you get down there, put your arms in a comfortable place. Bend your knees. And then just swing your legs a few times from side to side. I'm always keen to notice that feeling of thighs kind of rolling against the floor. It feels so nice in my body. But there's also something interesting to feel about feet kind of moving through the air. There's an interesting little dot of awareness there. Start to move your feet around in a kind of lazy circle here. So you're still rocking side to side, but now there's a little more circular movement there. Now, if you start doing that and you're like, well, I hate that, then just go back to the side. It's no problem. Sometimes this can feel really nice, not just on thighs, but on low back. Switch to the circles there if you were doing those. Doesn't have to be anything serious. It can be kind of lazy, kind of big and floaty circles, whatever is feeling good. Then just release your feet down to the floor. Close your eyes for a second. Maybe they were already closed. And reconnect with the feeling of your breath. You know, we're so used to breathing when we're sitting upright or lying on our back. But here, there's a totally different pattern for a breath. Sometimes you can feel like your chest wants to inflate, but it kind of bumps into the ground, and so the breath has to redirect into the back of our bodies. Could you make that just a little more purposeful? Get the sense that you're breathing into your back ribs, the back part of your lungs. This kind of back body breathing that we're experimenting with here helps us to tap into the quieter side of our nervous system. Sometimes you can feel it right away, but other times it takes a moment. Try just 2 more breaths here. Okay, take your time and roll over onto your back. When you get onto your back, bend your knees so your feet are flat on the floor. And then we're just working with legs, no arms on this one. Draw your right leg in, thigh towards belly. Straighten your leg up into the air. It's okay if it doesn't go all the way straight. And then lower your leg all the way down to the floor. We're just going to repeat that a few times. Slow and easy. Pull your right thigh in. Straighten your leg into the air. And then lower right leg all the way to the floor. See if you can find the just right pace here. Helps you to kind of unfurl all the stuck or tight places in your leg, but also in a place where you can continue to observe. We can listen for any messages your body, your mind, your breath might have for you. Do 2 more on this leg. Then replace your right foot flat on the floor and just pause for a second. Feel what that feels like. Then do the same series of poses of movements on the left leg. Pull your left thigh in, straighten your leg into the air, and then lower left leg all the way down to the floor. No urgency on this one. Pull your leg in, straighten and lower. Fit your breath in here wherever it makes sense for you. There's no prescribed kind of rhythm for the breath. Just don't hold your breath. Let your breath move in a smooth and easy way. Hopefully in that same kind of smooth and easy way that you're cultivating in the movement of your leg. Do 2 more here on the left side. And then after that second one, place your left foot down on the floor. Step your feet out wide. Go as wide apart as your yoga mat. And then swing your legs from side to side. Again, gentle and sweet. This little windshield wiper swing. Land your feet back onto the floor and then pull both knees in towards your chest. Use your hands to help open your knees out wide to the sides, kind of aiming them towards your armpits. You could stay right here, especially if happy baby pose is not your favorite. For happy baby pose, just reposition the lower half of your leg so your feet are running parallel to the ceiling. You can hold your knees. You could reach up and grab hold of your shins or your ankles, or maybe even reach up to catch hold of your feet. Holding onto feet or holding on somewhere on your lower leg gives you access to a little more leverage. You can pull your knees down and get into a deeper place in your hips, but only if that feels good and interesting for you. Would it feel nice to rock a little from side to side? Try that out and see what you think. And then if you've been rocking, find yourself into a little still spot. Release your feet back down onto the floor. And then just place your hands on your belly. Close your eyes if they weren't closed already. Have one of those feel what you feel moments. Remember how you were breathing into your back when you were lying on your belly? Are you able to do that same thing here? Breathe into your back. Imagine breathing down into the floor. What do you notice as you're lying here? Sometimes in the free space and the pauses that we take in this kind of practice, our mind can get kind of amped up, can do this thing where it sort of spins around on its little hamster wheel. At any time, if it would feel settling or more soothing for you to have the breath as a kind of anchor for your attention, you can bring your attention back to your breath anytime you want or need that. Okay, Be sweet and slow with yourself here. Roll over onto your side. Just curl in for a second. Tuck your chin in. Pull your knees in a little tighter. Then using the support of your hands, use your arms and push yourself up into your seated position. Okay, we're going to set up a few supported postures. We're going to do some resting in these poses. The first thing that you'll need is your bolster, or if you don't have a bolster, you could stack up a couple of blankets. So whatever you're setting up here, you're going to put it long ways down the center of your mat. Or if you don't have a bolster, you could just take your blankets. Right here's 2 of my blankets, and you could do the same thing. You just set it up long ways down the center of your yoga mat. The idea is to have a little height here for this pose. So once you have whatever prop there that you're going to use, bring yourself into a seat with your right hip next to the bolster, or blanket or pillows or whatever you're using. So you're not sitting on it, but you're sitting right up against the edge of it. And then take a second to line yourself up. Find the side seam of your shirt and set up so that the side seam of your shirt is lined up right along the center of the bolster or the pillows or the blankets. And then you can also see here with my legs, they're kind of staggered. It's not the same thing as having your knees stacked up, but they have a little space, right? They're kind of offset. Sometimes we talk about this like the mermaid pose. Okay, so once you've got that organized, bring your hands to the floor and push down with your fingers so you can sit up just a little bit taller. Then turn your torso, turn your belly, turn your chest towards the bolster or your props. Walk your hands out, lengthen as you come down to lie down on the bolster. There's a couple things you can do here. So you could put a blanket for under your head. It might feel nice to turn your face down towards the bolster, in which case you might need something to prop up your head so that your nose isn't squished. Like this, for me, it's one blanket, makes just the right amount of space so that I can breathe. One of the things we're up to in restorative yoga is not finding big stretches in our body, but finding a way that we can feel supported and relaxed. So the position of your head can really determine how happy and comfortable the rest of your spine is. Play around until you can find a just right position for your head, for your shoulders, for your legs. And maybe it would be nice to close your eyes. There's a slightly different breath pattern happening here than we've experienced so far in this practice. Because the right side of your body is sort of compressed by your props, there's a load more space for the breath on the left side. Can you feel that? Can you listen? Can you watch for the breath to move into the left side of your ribs? There's a continual invitation to pay attention to the breath in the back of the body too. Trying to find this way that we can kind of hack into the quiet side of nervous system. That we can reaffirm for our bodies that all is well, that we're safe, that it's okay to feel whatever there is to feel. I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes. You'll hear my voice again when it's time for us to make a shift in this position. But I want to make sure that you have a few minutes of time where you're not hearing me. You can just listen for your own experience, for your own little inner voice. You can listen to whatever your body is telling you. Bring your attention back if your mind had been wandering away. Just come back to observe again the experience that you're having in this position. Deepen your breath. And then find a place for your hands to press down against the floor. Slide your hands back a little closer to your legs, and then start to push your body up away from your props. Let your head hang down kind of heavy. Bring yourself around back into seated, upright position. But keep your eyes closed for a moment more. Take a slightly exaggerated breath here. Breathe in deeply through your nose. And then take an open mouth exhalation. Keep your gaze soft as you blink open your eyes. You can keep your props exactly where they are. You just have to turn to the other side. I'm going to move my props to the other side so I can see what's happening with all of you a little better. I'm going to set up with your left hip next to the bolster this time. You're not sitting on it, but sitting very close to it. And then just take an extra second to line up. So side seam of your shirt is running parallel with the center edge of your bolster or your props. Let your legs sort of stagger, offset, our little mermaid situation here. With your hands on the floor, push into your fingers, lift up through your spine, and then turn your belly, turn your chest towards the bolster. Walk yourself out, lengthening your spine as you lie down. This time supporting your left side. You could put your forehead down onto the blanket or to your props if that feels nice for your head to be a little straight forward. Or perhaps you'd prefer to rest your left cheek or the left side of your head against the bolster or the pillow. Of course, you can take as many moments as you need to get a little more organized. We're not trying to create big stretch in these poses. It's more about finding a comfortable position where we can settle. Trying to influence the movement of the breath here, this time into the left side. As you're getting yourself a little more organized into the pose, can you notice that? With the left side compressed, the right side has all this space for breath. The breath becomes a place for us not only to land our attention, but a place where we can really start to influence our nervous system. When we're giving ourselves this reminder, all is well. All is well in this exact moment. Because whatever you feel is just fine. I'm going to give you that quiet space again for a few minutes. A time where you can just pay attention to your own voice without being distracted by me. I'll let you know when it's time to shift and move. But for now, just rest. attention back from wherever your mind might have been. Come back to notice how your breath is feeling, how your body is feeling. Then take your time here. Find a place where you can press your hands down into the floor. Move your hands back a little closer to your legs. And then use your hands and the strength in your arms. Guide your body back up into your seated position. Close your eyes as you come into your seat. And notice how you feel after that pose. Take a slightly exaggerated breath here. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale with an open mouth, sigh. Keep your gaze soft as you blink, open your eyes. For the next pose, we're going to use the bolster and the blankets again, but this time I'm going to have you lie back on them. So maybe you'll want this extra blanket for your head, though I suspect some of you will prefer a flatter position. It's quite simple. Turn so that you can sit with the back of your body next to the bolster. Again, you're not sitting on it, but you're super close to it, right? Right up against the edge. And then lie back so that your chest is open. Let your arms drift out to the sides. And then you get to decide about the leg position. Perhaps you'll keep your knees bent with your feet flat on the floor. Some folks like to step their feet wide and drop their knees in, kind of turning toes in and letting legs fall in like a teepee. Like a little tent with your legs. Other folks prefer legs out straight. Maybe letting space between their legs, letting their feet drift or roll out to the sides. Try all of the leg positions and see which one you prefer. Make sure that your head is comfortable. Maybe that's pulling the blanket down so that it's also supporting your neck, or maybe it's taking the blanket out altogether, creating even more space to open the front of your throat and your chest. Again, remember how restorative yoga is asking us to be open in very gentle ways? I don't want you to ever feel like there's a massive stretch or tug across the front of your chest. That's not in the real spirit of this practice. Feeling open is great, but feeling like a strong tug or a strong stretch somewhere in your body makes it difficult for us to rest. When in doubt, aim for a more comfortable position. Because the front of your body is so open in this shape, it's natural that the breath and our awareness following the breath moves more into the front of the body. But I wonder if you could also connect to that feeling of breath in your back. Can you breathe in a way that makes you feel as if you're inflating front, sides, and back of ribs and torso? You don't have to fight or force at the breath or make it do anything it doesn't want to do. Ultimately, we're just putting ourselves in a place to notice the breath or to notice whatever there is to notice. I'm going to go quiet again. Let you have this space and time to just observe whatever there is to observe here. If your mind gets caught up or runs away in a way that doesn't feel settling or soothing, that makes you feel the opposite, Remember, you can come back to your breath anytime you need it. Bring your attention back from wherever your mind might have been. Take a moment just to notice what this pose feels like for your body. Has anything shifted for you, even in the moments where you're lying here? Notice anything that feels different than when you started practicing this pose. Take your time to reposition your body If your legs are out straight, bend your knees and bring your feet flat onto the floor. Pull your arms in if they were out to the sides, and wrap your arms around your chest like you're giving yourself a hug. Then roll down over onto your side, off of the bolster. Tuck your chin in and pull your knees in, kind of like you're curled in around your heart. Keep your eyes closed and your head feeling heavy, but use the support of your hands and your arms. Push your body up into your seated position. What does it feel like to be sitting upright now? Take that slightly exaggerated breath again. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth with a sigh. And keep your gaze soft as you blink open your eyes. Make a slight adjustment to the position of your bolster. Turn it so that it's parallel to the short end of your yoga mat. We're going to use this to support the lower half of our legs. I would recommend having something soft. Maybe your blanket will just go to the other end of your mat. It doesn't have to be a massive folded blanket, but just one small soft layer between your head and the floor. I would also suggest adding an extra blanket if you have it, or something that could give you a little more height under your legs. Most folks find that if they get their legs up a little bit higher, the low back will feel a little more comfortable. So once you've made your arrangements, and of course you can adjust anytime you need to, set up so that your calves are resting at the middle of the bolster. The idea here is to get your shins, or the lower half of your leg, parallel to the floor. Then lie back, making any adjustments as required to the blanket under your head. This is also a great place to add a blanket or some layer of clothing over your body, maybe a sweater if you have it. Even just having a blanket over your belly can help you feel a little cozier. Not just for warmth necessarily, but there's something about that weight that can feel really soothing. As you relax your legs, let them drift out to the sides. You can separate your feet wider or pull them in a little closer. Give yourself any little wiggles or adjustments that might be required so that your low back feels settled. If it's comfortable for you to rest your hands on your belly, you could do that, but arms out by your sides is just fine too. And close your eyes if you haven't done that already. Give yourself a moment to land, to arrive here in this new position. Perhaps there's something here to notice that you haven't noticed before. As you start to notice your breath, direct your attention to the feeling of the ground under you, especially the feeling of the ground under the back of your ribs. Breathe in a way that helps you feel equal between the front and back of your body. I'm going to give you this space and quiet again for you to listen, to observe, to notice whatever there is to notice for you. Remember, you have the breath as an anchor, as a refuge. You start to feel your mind or some part of you spinning up and out. Come back to your breath. Smooth and steady and soothing. tension back from wherever your mind might have been. Deepen your breath. And then just notice whatever there is to notice. If you notice that your body wants you to be still for just a few more moments, then no need to move or shift. But if you notice that your body feels ready for some movement, you can start to make those shifts or those adjustments as feels good for you. It might look like wiggling your fingers or your toes, or bending your knees, or moving your arms. Take your time and respond to whatever you notice. If you haven't done it already, pull your legs up and in towards your chest. Use your hands against your knees to help hold your legs in towards your belly, and then just rock a little bit. It might feel nice to make some circles on the sky with your knees, some little gentle wiggles or adjustments. Then let go of your legs. Stretch them out in front of you. Lift your arms up by your ears and give yourself this big stretch. Point your toes and then flex your feet. Point your toes and flex your feet. And then pull your legs back into your chest. Roll all the way over onto your side. Tuck your chin in and pull your knees in again. Curl in around your heart. Now use the support of your hands. Use the strength in your arms. Push your body back up into your seated position. Close your eyes as you get back into your seat. Do you feel different now than when we started? This kind of slowing down, the gentle movement, and the restorative yoga poses are meant to give us the space to really listen, to observe whatever it is that's happening for us, for our bodies, for our breath, for our mood, for our thoughts. This is the start of yoga. As you join your palms together back in front of your heart, remind yourself why you came to this practice. What can you take with you from what happened here out into the next part of your day? We'll close this practice with the same sound of Om that we used at the start. Om helps to magnify and amplify our individual energy and intentions, and it becomes a way for us to honor the ritual, the traditions of yoga practice. Sing with me if you'd like, or of course you could just listen. Exhale your breath and breathe in. May the practice of yoga help us find a place of peace, and may that peace be to the benefit of all beings everywhere. Om Shanti, Shanti,
Shanti Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thanks for spending some time doing this kind of slow, quiet work with me. I hope I'll see you all again soon.